Is Jack coming tonight?
No, he's not. He's not at all well, and he's not going to be joining us.
Oof, okay. Good thing we have a quorum.
We do, yeah,
Barely.
barely, he's right. So our vice mayor will be running the meeting. Oh, Alex,
Uh-huh.
I had spoken to Jack about this, and he had agreed to do this. When we get to the meeting, we would like to move up item 8C, since Stephen Polk is here with us to talk about that. That would be okay with you?
Okay. That will be fine. We'll do the moment of silence first, and then we'll go on to item 8C. And it is 7 o'clock. If everyone's ready, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone via Zoom, unfortunately, to our regular meeting of the Drum Town Council. We're not in council chambers tonight. Candace is. Today is Tuesday, June 14th, and the time is 7 o'clock. If we could get a roll call, please.
Right. Mayor Dillenberg is not here. Vice Mayor Barber,
Is present.
Ms. Harvey,
Here,
Ms. Moore.
Here,
So we will move on to item, well, it's not really even item number 2. It's just a moment of silence for lives lost through gun violence. If we can just have a moment of silence, everyone, please. Gun violence in America has become quite problematic. So we're going to do a little bit of changing up of the order of our agenda. We have Stephen Polk here. Item number 8C is an agreement with Verde Exploration regarding use of town water.
Mayor,
Yes,
can
Candace,
I
please.
request that we handle item 2 first so that Melanie can leave because she's got to leave.
Okay, the financial reports
Yes.
first.
Yes, shouldn't take.
Okay. Council, do we have any questions or any comments on the financial reports? Item number 2.
I just want to do a little bit of clarification. I did have a lot of questions, but I went over everything with Candace and I'm all right with everything. I just want to make a real quick statement. If anybody notices that we're extremely over budget on advertising, printing and publishing under general administration, that is because we've had to hire so many new employees. And I believe we still have ads out on Indeed, or correct, Candace, for
We have one ad out there for Public Works employee, but it's not getting a lot of action, so the cost is pretty minimal right now. But we were advertising for a town manager, zoning administrator, police officer, Public Works. It's been a busy year for advertising.
yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that it was on the record in case there were any questions about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
And I
I'll
would
call-
make a motion, oops, I would make a motion to approve the financials if nobody else has questions.
I'll second.
Any further discussion or any questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the financial reports, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Financial reports are approved. Now we will move on to item number 8C.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Candace, would you like to go over this just a bit?
Yes, we actually have a couple of small changes to the term sheet that you had in your packet. I'll go over those with you. This is an agreement with Verde Exploration regarding their being able to use town water and have it hooked back up to the properties over there. If you look at your agreement under D, there's 2 small changes that were requested by the town. And it says state law requires a municipality to continue providing water service et cetera, may be subject to conditions. And we inserted the words, including water demand reduction strategies. And under terms, under number 1, it will read, town agrees to provide water to 1 meter for each of the properties. So those are the 2 changes in that. And again, those were requested by the town and approved, I understand, by VerdiX. And our attorney has been working with them on this agreement.
Any questions, council members? On the 2 things Candace just brought up?
And Stephen Polk, the attorney for VerdiX, one of the attorneys, is here to answer any questions that you might have for him.
I just want to say, I don't have any questions. I think this was pretty straightforward.
Jane, did you have anything to add?
No, I just wonder if this is, I'm assuming this is satisfactory since you and Bill have worked on it, correct?
Yes, Jane Moore, I believe that question's to me.
Yes,
Councilmember
oh,
Moore.
sorry.
And yes, so certainly Bill Sims, your town attorney, and I have worked on this. We've reviewed it satisfactory to Verde Exploration, including these changes that were requested today. Those are satisfactory to us as well. I had the opportunity of meeting with the mayor and Councilmember Moore and Marty Boland out at these properties a month or so ago, and with Candace, and we went over this. The intent really is to reconnect the water to these historic buildings that used to have these water connections. And so I'm available to answer any other questions, but I think this is a good agreement, and it accomplishes what both sides are looking for.
Right, I think it's pretty straightforward, wordy for just hooking up water, but yeah.
And I have a question for clarification. Is this 3 properties, 3 water meters?
Vice Mayor, it is, it's 2 separate tax parcels. Those tax parcels over there that you're looking at are quite large. One of them is, I believe, 68 acres, it might even be larger. So it really is the water connections to the historic engineers building that's over on Little Daisy and on the Little Daisy Road there. And then there's the assay office, which is the building right before you get to the Jerome State Historic Park. And then also to the mine yard. That's essentially just an empty yard, but where the old mining operations used to be.
At the head frame park?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Essentially, though, these are 3 buildings. There's a building at the mine yard, I believe.
That mine yard building at this point, I don't really think that's functional for anything. So that water connection will reach to that stub out that's just at the beginning of the mine yard, and then it'll be up to Verde Exploration to extend that to uses on that property later.
Right, but as far as the other one, it is specifically the 2 buildings, the assay office and the engineers buildings being reconnected.
Correct.
Yes.
Any further discussion, council?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
And if we don't have anything else to say about it, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, council. So we will now move on to item number 3, which is our staff and council reports.
And Vice Mayor,
Any
I'd just like to say thank you for having me, and I'll sign off. Thank you, Vice Mayor, council members.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening.
Thank you, Candace, you too.
You too. So Vice Mayor, do you want me to go over my report, which is,
Yes, please.
okay. Mostly this month was the two projects we've got going on, the drainage improvements and the water line improvements, the grants for those, and the budget. Those have taken up most of my time this month. I also began preparations for the transition to the new town manager. I'm making lists and cleaning up my office and things like that. Other than that, it was the usual stuff, including public records requests. The sales tax revenues through April. It's probably most amazing one yet. We had 157,000 in sales tax revenue for April, which was 43,000 above budget and 24,000 above last year. So it's pretty remarkable so far. Don't know how long it'll last, but it's pretty good. And then our water flows are holding steady at about 190-ish, something like that. Speaking of water, as you know, today we issued a notice with discussion with the fire chief and the public works director to go to stage 2 water restrictions because of the drought. We've had issues where our tanks are not all the way full, and we really want that to be full. So not only that, we had an issue with one of our tanks, so we have to watch our water conservation. And we issued stage 2 restrictions, which basically sets times for watering outside on alternate days, depending on the address. And those are listed on our website right now and on our Facebook page. So that was my report.
Thank you, Candace. Do we have any other reports from council members or any questions about any of these reports? Discussion? I will make a motion that we accept the staff and council reports.
Second.
If we have no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, zoning administrators report, planning, zoning, and design review board minutes. Will, what do you have to report this evening and how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Sorry, it's a little bright here. I'm in a car on the farm, so forgive me. All right, so the Planning and Zoning Commission, we didn't have a meeting this month. There were no items to agendize for that one. The Design Review Board approved the minutes from the special meeting of the Town of Jerome Design Review Board from Monday, April 4th, 2022. Bryce Woods was elected as chair and Tyler Christensen was elected vice chair. Approved a request by Jay Kinsella to repaint 37 Rich Street, and approved a request by the Jerome Historical Society to change the exterior paint colors to the Mine Museum. Board of Adjustment had nothing to report at this time. Same thing with Code Enforcement, nothing to report at this time either. With administrative approvals, small jobs, we approved the paint, maintenance, and repair, like for like, on the New State Motor Building for the Jerome Historical Society. In other business, we conducted the initial walkthrough of 655 Holly Street, and there's been a lot of things that have happened since this was initially written there. We conducted inspections, which you guys are aware of, the council, and I believe we have news on that that'll come from you guys. We ordered a small GPS unit in order to facilitate the conducting of a parking inventory and survey of the town. The onboard GPS was not giving precise enough data for the mapping we needed. And I have here the device. So hopefully I'll have some results on that to report back to you soon.
Thank you, Will. Jane?
I just have a question. I haven't seen anything about the design review guidelines lately,
yeah.
and I just wondered what was happening with that.
Admittedly, that's been a slow process. There's been some learning curve items that were higher priority, but
Yeah,
part of that is in defining a new historic time period or significant time period, I need to come up with specific attributes. To that effect, I still have an arrangement with Jay Kinsella to come in and do some research, which I need to get in and do. And also have a few other personal interviews to talk about materials, design elements, things like that. So that's actually the toughest part, is simply identifying these elements in order to sort of codify a new historic time period.
okay, and what about the pre-1953 part of it?
Well, a lot of that work has already been done. Bryce
Okay.
Woods did a magnificent job.
Okay, okay.
Um,
You did find his, the printout that he did for that, correct?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
And I have one question for you, Will. In the minutes that we have in our packet, it's from April 29th, Planning and Zoning, and it talks about an accessory feature on Dundee that was tabled for a neighborhood meeting to be set up at a future date. And then it says the application has been withdrawn. So they are withdrawing the application and not doing the accessory feature, is that correct?
The way that it was designed in that application required review due to the circumstances of that design. The applicant withdrew the application and has since redesigned how they want to proceed with the project. That project, once it's brought back to the office, will go through the building inspectors purview and everything, just like any other project would. But the design as that project has been tabled.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. Any other questions for Will? It says possible direction. You're doing a great job, Will. We appreciate you. There is no vote on this, correct? So now we're moving on to item number 5. If I'm not skipping over anyone that wants to talk, Sage, did you have anything to ask of Will before we move on?
Nope, just thank you for doing such a great job.
Thank you. So we will now move on to approval of minutes. Council, do you have any problem with just doing these all in one big lump? Do we have anything that we would need to split them apart for, Sage?
Not that I found.
Okay, so we're moving on to item number 5, approval of minutes. We have the April 27th special meeting, the May 5th special meeting, the May 10th regular meeting, May 17th special meeting. And if we don't have any alterations, anything to talk about, I will move that we approve all these minutes, council.
Seconded.
So I'll call the question for the approval of the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Do we have any opposition? We do not. Do we have any petitions from the public, Candace? Moving on to item number 6.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So our ordinance and resolutions, item number 7A, this is the first reading of ordinance number 483. This is an ordinance of the town council of the town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Article 12-1 traffic code of the Jerome Town Code.
I do have one minor change to the language of that suggested by our police chief. And that would be, well, it's just the addition of, it says no vehicle displaying signs with a cumulative size larger than 8 square feet may park on public roadways or in public parking areas within the town of Jerome for a period of time longer than 2 hours. And we're adding within a 24-hour period. That's the only change.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
So-
Jane?
I'm just curious. I know this has been discussed before, if there's any comments from the public. or have, maybe not.
Susie is, oh no, they're muted. So, oh, there's Susie.
Hi, Susie, there you go.
Since you asked for comment, I would just like to add that I think this is a good move on part of the council, and that it seems that many businesses kind of put their advertising on their vehicle and leave their vehicle where, where we need it for tourists and for locals. And so I just think it's an excellent move to eliminate that. So thank you.
Thank
And
you, Susie.
I see that Jara Peterson has her hand up.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tara.
Yes, so I was curious, does that include the ghost hunter van and all that?
Anything?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
So this is the first reading, but it says possible action. Do we vote on this, Candace?
No, you don't vote, but you do conduct the first reading. So that's what you're
Okay.
doing. And
Well,
Jane
we
has her hand up.
Yes, Jane?
I think part of this is a result of people complaining for years about sign clutter and just being distracted in town by things that aren't necessarily something we want to promote. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if we get any feedback from this, and I support it.
Thank you, Jane. It is a step forward at reducing some of the visual clutter that is accumulated on our main street, is how I guess I'll put it.
So we'll have the second reading at our July 12th meeting.
Perfect. So now we'll move on to new business. Item number 8A, intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County Flood Control District drainage improvements. This is something that we have had money for a little while, or the money we've known that we were going to get these drainage improvements, and we're now finally getting boots on the ground, it seems.
Right. This will help us pay for the drainage improvement project that we have going on right now.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion before I call the question?
I do. I want to say one thing. I'm assuming that there are going to be notices when the work is going on, because I think that's important in areas that may impact traffic or
Yes.
whatever, that people in the neighborhoods know that it's going on.
Our public works have already distributed notices to all the homeowners that are impacted.
Okay,
It put
Good.
something on our Facebook page and website also.
much
This is-
needed work.
Yes, it's a wonderful gift from Arizona Department of Transportation. So is that where it came from? It was from the government, correct? It was from the Arizona Department of Transportation. This has been something that we've been looking forward to, because we knew we were going to be doing this with municipalities. It takes quite some time before you actually get work done. So I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 8B is an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation for Center Avenue improvements. This is something that had a little hiccup in the works, and we finally got it straightened out. And again, this is much needed work that is going to be done in this town. So I would just off the top, motion to approve this. So, and I know I'm jumping again. Does anyone want to talk about this? Jane, Sage, anyone? Can I get a
Again,
second?
I just like to say, a lot of the fixes to Center Avenue have been postponed. hoping that this was going to happen, to redo lines in the road, and people not wanting, well, Public Works not wanting to fix things because they know that the street's going to be all dug up to do these improvements and then fix the road. So finally,
This is much needed improvements on our other way that you can get through town if something happens in the middle of our town. This is pretty much our other emergency exit, if you want to call it that. So this is a gift definitely for the town to the tune of $560,000. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Susie Mount has her hand up.
Do you, Susie? Yes, please speak before we call the question.
Yes, thank you. Being a longtime resident of Center Street and watching its slow deterioration, I was wondering, because I'm a little bit out of the loop, if somebody could just real briefly kind of update me in what is going to be done?
The improvements are going to be fixing the utilities under the street first, and then fixing the street itself.
Yay.
And then when they fix the street, are we going to lose all of our cobblestones?
No, not all of them. I think the plan is to move them either to the center or the side. They're going to preserve what they can while making the street drivable.
Okay, yeah, because there's just so much patchwork
Right.
that, you know, we
Yeah.
have a little bit of cobblestones, because obviously it would be wonderful
Yeah.
to have our cobblestones. So thank you. I'm so excited this is going to be done. Although
probably won't be fun while it's happening.
No, it won't.
this is true. But one thing that I have noticed, that since the road has gotten so bad, people don't drive as fast on the road, which is nice, because several years back, we had people just flying up and down Center, and it was really dangerous. So hopefully, once we have a decent road, that we can still mitigate people going way too fast. Thank you all for doing this. It's very exciting being a resident of Center Street.
Thank you, Susie. So I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? The motion carries. We've already taken care of 8C, so now we're moving on to 8D, which is annexation. Council, how do you feel about having this discussion without Jack? Do you think it might be wise for us all to process this a little bit more and actually talk about it when we have our mayor with us as well? It is something that has been talked about, and now, you know, we need to, I think, include him in it as well. So how about I motion to table this until next month so that we can have Jack at this discussion?
Wait,
Jane has her hand up.
Okay,
I think it wouldn't hurt at this point in time. I'm pretty sure that Jack would be interested in taking a look at this, but to maybe be thinking about where we would want to draw the line. I know we would like to encompass Dundee and the Bell properties and the sewer treatment plant. And I think it would be possible maybe to start putting together a little map that shows the areas that we've talked about,
agreed.
because we have talked about this often enough, I think.
I do believe that if they're not contiguous areas, I think the recommendation from the league, if I read that correctly, is to do separate ordinances for each discrete area.
I think it could be contiguous though, because actually the properties that go out, I mean, the reason I'm familiar with this is because we tried to do this 20 years ago, I think. And the last house, the Honeymoon Cottage, and the last property on Dundee sort of line up with the sewer treatment plant in the middle of that. So they would be pretty much contiguous. Mm-hmm.
Paige has her hand up too when you're done, Jane.
I'm done.
Okay.
So my one concern was, I would really like for the Jerome State Park to be in the state, in the town of Jerome. And everything that I read, I couldn't find anything that said anything necessarily about state parks per se, but it did say parks, that it could be a problem. So can you find clarification on whether or not we can
Right, I can.
annex the state
From what
park?
I read, county parks are include, have special treatment, and state lands. And I don't think this is either one of those really, but I don't know if it might be a state land. I don't know what's considered a state land, but I'll look into that.
Thank you.
And the
May
way-
I?
Yes, please, Jane.
When we did this the last time, the state park could not weigh in one way or the other and remain neutral. And I believe that's what they have to do.
But they could be annexed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was my question, is whether or not that
Yes,
fell under the
Yes.
special parks, or if we could annex that.
yes.
I'll find that out.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll continue this discussion at our next meeting.
Yes, please.
And the way Jean was describing that, from the one side to the other, it's kind of a hill, so it's not flat, but I picture just this big, long piece from the one side to the other. That does make sense. Thank you, Jane, for putting that picture in my mind.
Oh.
So we will continue this discussion at our next meeting, and now we'll move on to item number 8E, the microbrewery regulations.
I
Candace?
I
Please.
provided the only example that I could find, and it was provided by Mike Pace, our Pace engineer, of regulations that were in Patagonia, and they're really extensive, not expensive, but. And I asked Henry about it, and he did review it, and he said there's some things in that code that don't apply to us. But he would like to see worked into a pretreatment regulation plan, the BOD, TSS, and TN levels of the waste stream generated by their operations. He also said, I've read that these numbers can be astronomically high, this is for microbreweries, and put incredible stress on small treatment plants like the one in Jerome. For example, normal residential BOD levels in sewage are in the 230 to 300 milligram per liter range. Some process at microbreweries generate between 5,000 and 100,000 milligrams per liter BOD. So that's a tremendous difference. And he was in favor of setting some regulations, just not all of those that are in the Patagonia ordinance. So I did have that out there for other towns. I haven't gotten anything else except that one so far. I think Will just had his hand up.
Will, is
Yeah,
your hand up?
sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes, I looked into this as well, and I looked in a lot of different places, and there wasn't a whole lot of particular regulation, but I did look how microbreweries and breweries are usually zoned, and what sort of applies to them. And generally, they're looked at as sort of an industrial or even heavy commercial. Many cities require them to get industrial waste permits to even discharge their sewage. And I looked into like the process. Okay, well, what's going on here? And there's a number of issues. Part of it is there's a lot of biologicals, a lot of organics, and there's sludge buildup as well. And some of that decomp process creates hydrogen sulfide, which is highly corrosive. And so this stuff has a really low pH, which is really, really corrosive even on new systems. And so the solids, and a lot of the sludge can be removed through pre-filtration processes, but the rest of the system is still a cauldron of microorganisms, and we're flooding another system that is based on microorganisms and throwing it out of balance. There are systems to mitigate this. But some of those systems are extensive. They require some space and they can get expensive. They're doable, but we do need to heavily regulate this. I would even recommend even a self-contained system. Some breweries have been required to use haul-off tanks for some of their material. So there are ways to mitigate the effects, but I do worry about allowing that effluent into our system.
Thank you. And I will point out that we are due for how many millions of dollars worth of sewer upgrades at this point, Candace? 7 million?
6.6 million.
I just rounded up to 7.
Right, right.
So Sage, please.
I just want to clarify also that Henry put in there that he says that he has read the numbers and they can be astronomically high and put incredible stress on small wastewater treatment plants like the one in Jerome, both existing and future facility. So even though we're upgrading our wastewater treatment plant, a microbrewery could really, really hurt it.
Yes.
So thank you so much for doing research on that, Will. I super appreciate it.
So is there any direction for us at this time, or are we still just going to continue to try to gather more information? Oh, Jane has her hand up.
Jane.
I'm wondering, because our zoning ordinance does not address this, if we should address this. I guess I would probably have some legal questions about how we would go about this, because we probably will have other applicants to do something like this. And it seems like we should be able to answer their questions if they want to apply to have a microbrewery. It's a little different than a wine tasting room. I mean, if you want to have a beer tasting room, that's fine. You're not actually manufacturing it. But it's different than actually manufacturing it. And I do have concerns about consistency of our water at this point, as a lot of people know right now from my comments about water to people. So I guess I would like to have that question answered, because we've been told at times that if we have nothing in the ordinance, we have a hard time addressing it. So I guess I have questions before I would decide to do anything at this point.
And Will has his hand up.
Yes, please, Will.
To that point, I saw how a number of different cities treated that same problem. Where do these fit? How do you address it? And, you know, part of the question is this a microbrewery where you have sort of the classic, some of the brewing and consuming on site? Because if you have that, then you have to figure out a fit that makes a commercial fit. And a way I saw some towns did that is they limited the amount of production that you can do. And they had limitations sort of the way we do on wine tasting rooms. I did see other cities where they limited it to industrial zones, however. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. And if you'd like, I'm happy to try to put this together and make some comparisons, do a sort of analysis if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. And I would be willing to volunteer some time to work on it with you, if you are willing.
That would be fantastic.
And I also wanted to point out a little bit of what Will had said. He had talked about industrial waste. So is this a commercial endeavor of a microbrewery, or is it in industrial? So this is something that we need to get clarification on as well. So if Sage and Will can work on it, and then we can come back with a little bit more information, talk to Bill Sims about what is within our legal rights to, I'm gonna say it, protect our wastewater treatment plants. So is there anything else to talk about at this point? I see your hands up, Sage.
I just wanted to say thank you. I know this is probably a touchy subject for some people, but I think it's really, really important that we start this discussion and do something before we have like another brewery wants to do something in the high school and it's so big in there, we can't stop it, you know, and now our wastewater treatment plant, everything we're doing to it could be for naught if we had a brewery coming here right now.
Thank you. Yes, Jane?
I'm wondering if there's any public comment once
I
again.
was just gonna go there. If we have anybody that is with us that would like to say anything about this, this agenda item.
I'm sure we have people with opinions here.
I do see Susie has put her hand back up. Susie, please.
I think it's really important that we protect the residents, you know, in existing businesses. Our infrastructure is everything. We lose our infrastructure, and if the whole town got shut down because of an overload, everybody suffers, not just the people that live here, but all the businesses would. So this is a very high priority, and it's really important for us to be able to protect our infrastructure and make decisions based on what is best for the community and not necessarily just what is best for somebody's potential business venture. So thank you for tackling this issue. I know it's a hot topic, and but we all want to have functioning sewers and protect our water. So thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
I think
Any other
Jara,
comments
I
on
think
this?
Jara has her hand up.
Yes, yes,
Okay, yes, please.
when we were brought with that issue with the microbrewery in the House of Joy, and I was looking that up, it's a big endeavor, and I think we really have to safeguard ourselves because it's not really based for a smaller system that's been, you know, in the turn of the century created. And I think I really agree that to safeguard the town, any further endeavors like that. That's it.
Thank you, Jara.
So if we don't have any further discussion on this, we will, I think, have some. Yes,
Jane, your
Candace?
hand up.
Yes, Jane?
I just would like to say too that after we tabled the last microbrewery application, we did not deny it, but we tabled it for more information. I think things like this do need to be discussed publicly at public meetings because there's a lot of misunderstanding out there in the public about why we discuss these things and that we say no for some arbitrary reason when there are actually reasons for doing this. And it would be nice to educate the public. And I think Henry's comments here, he's much better at giving numbers than I was at the meeting where we had the application. I had lots of articles saying these kinds of things, but I think there was a lot of misunderstanding, and a microbrewery or a lot of other things too might sound great on the surface, and they need to be discussed so that people understand why we're doing the things we do and take time to consider the impacts of them. That's all.
Thank you, Jane. It is nice when we have lots of public participation because then we know how our voters, how our public feels about what we do. Sometimes people that sit up as volunteers behind the dais, they do things not to single out anyone, just to be protective and do what's best for the town. We have a wastewater treatment plant that does serve all of us. So again, it is about the community as a whole and not just one individual. So it is, again, all about the community as a whole. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Jane, for spelling it out the way you did. And Henry McVitie's memo, his report with all of the numbers is part of this meeting, so it will be public record, so anyone can just look at it. So if people want to see the numbers, it is available for them. Does anyone else have anything else to say about this at this point? Otherwise, we will have some sort of revision to look at again next meeting to keep moving this ball forward. Okay,
I'd
so
like
I'm
some questions answered prior to coming up with something, yeah.
agreed, Jane. So I will move on to and from the council then. Item number 9. Council members, what do we have for to and from the council? Jane, do you have anything?
Not at the moment, I don't think. People, well, I think maybe we should also bring up that we discussed at our budget meeting. Oh, I do, actually. We discussed at our budget meeting yesterday about having the next budget meeting or one of them at a later hour so that the public may attend. So I'd like to put that word out there that we would like to schedule it in case anyone has comments about the budget and would like to attend the meeting. And the other one we didn't mention is that we voted yesterday to purchase the house on Holly Street for someplace for the town employees, town staff that needs to live in town to have a place to live for as long as it takes them to find something or however long they want to be there. And that makes me happy that at least it's a beginning for a housing.
Thank you, Jane. Sage, do you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, and I do not have anything at this time as well, so it sounds like we're ready to adjourn. Move on to item number 10. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Seconded.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:46. This might be one of the records for a full council meeting in 46 minutes. Go team.
I think the other shortest one was when the power was out.
Right?
Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and everyone steers clear of the virus, and that
They
we have
will.
a council meeting in person next month, and that we have lots of public participation. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Night.
Good night.